We live? We good? Good. Losing my father was easily the hardest thing that I've ever been through. And when you lose a mentor like that, you lose someone you love that much, you're faced with a hard decision. Do you let it break you or do you let it make you stronger? I'm Brody Prudnick, and this is the story of Ray's Rub. The story of Ray's Rub goes back 25, 30 years, really. It originated in West Virginia. Dad had parts of the recipe configured, but nothing complete at that point. And he was in the oil and gas business, so my dad and my mom got transferred down to New Orleans. And at that point, he really started to cook a lot of different types of food. I mean, he did a lot of Creole boils, he did a lot of chickens on a spit, and he wanted to perfect this seasoning. So down there in New Orleans, that's really where the recipe started to take place. And he got to a point where he was cooking with this, he was cooking chickens, and they had cookouts at the house, and he was handing out bags of this seasoning. And everybody seemed to love it. So it's just something that they did time and time again. And then my parents got transferred back to Pittsburgh. It was a similar story there. And this is probably mid 1990s. I was born in 92, sometime around there. And cookout, same thing. But every time Dad moved, he started to add little bits of herbs and spices to this recipe. And so it really took 15, 20 years before the blend that we have now was formed. But in the early 2000s, the recipe was finalized in Charleston, West Virginia. And that's my childhood home. And I remember many days, many weekends in Charleston. We're down in the basement, my brother, my dad, and I, and we're mixing 5-gallon buckets of Ray's Rub. We've got all kinds of 21 herbs and spices, and we're just dumping big tubs of this stuff into this 5-gallon bucket, mixing it up, and it was a blast. And after Dad perfected this recipe, I mean, he was such a good chef. He's getting calls from friends and family to come do rotisserie chickens and cook out for him, and he'd always use his spice. And so when they tried the chicken that he made with this, when they tried the prime rib, they were amazed. They couldn't believe how good it was. And he kept growing it. He kept telling more people and kept handing out samples. So then in 2005, that was the original bottle was created in 2005. He began to get this seasoning blended and bottled. And I always joke because the first label was ugly as can be. I mean, the product was amazing, but the label was horrible. And I always picked on my dad about it. But for a period of years, my dad was coming down and asking my brother and I if we wanted to cook just about every weekend in the summer. And it got to a point where my brother and I are like, Dad, please stop. We don't want to cook anymore. We're tired of it. We cooked the last 3 weekends, and everybody loved the chickens. Everybody loved the beef that we cooked, and we always had a good time. And so truthfully, back then, I wasn't always excited about cooking, but now I look back and those are probably some of the best memories I ever had.
There's a lot of memories on this old setup here, and I think the funniest memory I have is when my dad, brother, and I were cooking for a graduation party. And when we load these poles up with chickens, it's imperative that you get those chickens down as tight as you can so they don't spin. And I distinctively remember my brother and I forgot to tie the chickens down. So we got 25 chickens on this pole. We both grab it off. We get it vertical in the air and we start to push these chickens down to tighten them up, and all the chickens start falling off. And you talk about a great dad that was a little unhappy with us at the time. So we had chickens laying all over the ground, and I don't even remember how we cleaned that mess up, but I think we ran to Sam's and got more chickens. So just a really funny day, some good memories.
15 years later, after 2005, so the original bottle, 2005, Back in 2018, we rebranded the business a little bit. New label, new packaging, a little bit more modern twist to Ray's Rub. We're really excited about the product that we have now. It's the same old original 21 herbs and spices, but a little bit more modern look. And when I first introduced the new label and everything to my dad, he was really excited about it. He said, finally, we got something we're both proud of. Seasoning itself is a masterful blend of 21 herbs and spices. It's really like nothing you've ever tried. It's good on just about anything. We try on pork, chicken, steak, venison, elk, potatoes and onions, mixed vegetables. My mother makes a great breadcrumb breading with this. She'll mix breadcrumbs and Ray's Rub. I'm not giving all the secrets away, but that's some of the secret. Different sauces. You can really do anything with this. We've got a good friend that's packaging some gravy mix with this. He's mixing in Ray's Rub with his gravy. So there's so much flavor and there's so many different herbs and spices that you really don't have to go to that seasoning cabinet and grab anything else. You've got it all right here. It's the one and done seasoning. I mean, it's a one-hit wonder. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I call it the speedy gourmet seasoning because you can make an amazing pork loin, an amazing whole chicken in very little time and very little effort with Ray's Rub. When people think of Ray's Rub, I don't want them thinking just another seasoning. I want them envisioning this amazing time that they could be having with their family and friends, you know, grills sizzling, beer on ice. I mean, I want this brand to tell that story. That's what it was for my family. It was a lot of summers together, cooking out, chickens on a spit, tons of camaraderie, just so many good memories. And to me, that's really what life's about, you know, being close with friends and family and spending that quality time together. And when I look at this bottle and when I think about my father, that's exactly what it is. Let's cut that.